I got to start out, maybe this isn't the most appropriate, but there was a real tragedy in one of my hometowns this morning, and it wouldn't feel right for me to not tell those people that my heart is with them. Hello, fellow Democrats, brothers and sisters. My name's Troy Jackson, and I'm running for Congress because I believe the middle class needs a voice. I'm running for Congress because I don't hear enough people in Washington saying the things that I believe need to be said. Like so many, I grew up in Maine, where people work imaginably hard their entire lives, only to scrape by and have a little bit to show for it. Too many times, I've watched families pack up and leave despite their best efforts. The vast wealth that was made off of Maine's natural resources was hoarded by industrial landowners from far away who saw us as a tool and the forest of our home as a commodity. You know, I really started questioning this when I started having a family of my own. Now, most of you don't need me to tell you this, but when you have children, you stop thinking about yourself and you start to see the world around you in an entirely different way. You start to realize that you have to do better because your family's future depends on it. In order to do the best I could for my family, I was willing to take any logging job to keep a roof over our heads. Within a few years' time, that meant leaving Allagash every week for job sites far away from home, while Canadian companies cut wood all around our little town of Allagash. As most of us that live paycheck to paycheck do, I tried to accept it as just the way things were. But I knew that something wasn't right, especially on Sunday nights. You see, Sunday nights, I'd pack my lunchbox and pack some clothes for the week, preparing for my long drive early in the morning to places down in the Golden Road. And Sunday nights, my son, who was 3 or 4 by then, would ask me not to go. He'd tell me that he was going to stay awake, holding my hand all night, so that morning came, I'd still be there for him. I used to watch him fight to stay awake, with his little hand wrapped around my thumb, as if by strength of his will alone, he could keep me at home. As if all the strength that he had in that little hand could counter generations of corporate greed that was keeping other young children in the St. John Valley from their parents. It was during those long Sunday nights that would turn into early Monday mornings that I stopped accepting things for the way that they were and started thinking about the way that they should be. Those days took me back to when I was 12 years old, standing behind my father and his fellow loggers, when all they were asking for was decent pay for their dangerously hard work. And I remember the fear as the rich landowners told them to take what they were getting, or they'd get nothing at all. The fear that I felt then was nothing compared to what I'm sure the desperation of my father, who must have been humiliated as I stood alongside of him in front of the man that held his livelihood in his hands. And I learned then, just as I knew as a young man with a growing family, and just as I know now, that there is no compromise with people like that use their power to keep others down. Instead, it's my belief that you have to make a stand. Whether it's blocking the Canadian border and forcing their hand, or standing up to a Tea Party governor when too few are willing to do it. You see, I've known people like those landowners and Paul LePage my entire life. They may think it's okay to abuse us and tell us we're stupid and should go back to the woods. But let me tell you something. When they say that I have a black heart, I wear that insult as a badge of courage, because it means that I'm standing up for men and women that have been prevented for too long and left behind for too long. You know, in this race, you're going to hear a lot about compromise. And let's be clear, that is not why I'm running. I am running for Congress for every family who's laid their heads down at night with the ache of being powerless to change their situation. I'm running for every child that watched their parent pack up and go to work away from home for the week, and for the parent who had to let go of the little hand. I am running for every person whose story ever went untold, while the lobbyists with offices all around capitals made damn sure that their corporate story was told by passing off things like trickle-down economics and free trade as the only option for our future.
Yeah, it ain't money.
I stand before you today because I put more faith in the proud loggers of Allagash than in the foreign companies who play them like chess pieces. I put more faith in the lobstermen in Jonesport that literally fly the flag of their union and their right to organize than in the Koch brothers that fly the flag of corporate greed. I put more faith in the folks reviving Lewis's downtown than in the big box stores like Walmart that are killing downtowns across America. I put more faith in Rumford's mill workers than in the corporations that want to outsource every single good-paying job we have. I put more faith in the nurses right here in Bangor than the insurance companies who watered down health care reform and prevented us from having a single-payer, universal health care system that we deserve. I put more faith in our state employees whose pensions we're taking out from under them in a compromise than I do in the rich that got a $400 million tax cut in exchange. And I put more faith in our servicemen and women, our veterans, who sacrificed so much to give us the freedoms that we actually have here today, than the bureaucrats that think of them as disposable and forgot about the commitments that were made to them. My mother is one of the strongest people I've ever known. When I was growing up, she taught me that once you've worked hard for your family, the best thing you can do is try and help others. She dropped out of school at 15 when she became pregnant with me. She didn't go back to finish her high school diploma until I was 5. When I got a little bit older, she found a way to go to college to become a teacher. She was able to take care of me, go to her classes, get her schoolwork done, all while keeping our home together. And when she started teaching, she was making a mere $14,000 a year. For a little more than half of that first year, we lived in a small home on the St. John River. And I remember playing with matchboxes down by the river and thinking it was a fun place to live. But for my mother, it was nothing more than a shack without heat and running water. And to her, it was the embodiment of failure. When the summer waned and fall came to Maine, I remember the cold. And this is why I really don't like to tell this story. Because Mom would remind me how lucky we were. Because we weren't the only family living just like this. And right around us, and all around the world, people had it much worse. They were colder and more scared than we were. Maybe even right up the road. When I think back to those cold nights, and I'd hear my mother cry, I didn't know teachers were some of the most poorly paid professionals. And while I knew we were poor, I didn't know what the term income inequality meant. I'm not running for Congress because I wanted to for a long time, or because I want to use it for a springboard for bigger and better things. I'm running because of income inequality, poverty, unfairness, corporate greed, and political cowardice. I've known these things my entire life. And I've watched them wreck communities and tear people's lives and their families apart. And during those cold nights in that small shack along the river, I never would have thought I'd one day have the opportunity to do something about it. And if I'm lucky enough to pull this off, I damn sure intend to. You see, to me, in my heart, if you're going to run for Congress, you have to know what's in your heart, what's in your soul, why you're running. And I run for all those cold nights all across America, and all those crying mothers, and all those aching families of the middle class. Because you see, that is my special interest group. So no, I won't back down when bullies like Paul LePage want to blame struggling parents for the world's problems. If he doesn't scare me, John Boehner and Paul Rhineshore's hell won't either. And I won't back down when Wall Street wants yet another bank and CEO bailout, and hedge fund managers don't want to be regulated. I won't back down when some, even in our own party, want to hold hands with the Tea Party to extend tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. I won't back down when the GOP tries to go after Social Security and Medicare. And I won't back down when corporate politicians on both sides of the aisle try to pass more free trade agreements. And when the privileged elite try to keep me quiet with their checkbooks and their political machine, whether it's at the Canadian border in 1998 or on the campaign trail today, I sure as hell won't back down. Sit down and shut up for too long, and it's all it's got us is less and less, while it's giving the wealthy and the privileged more and more. And it's time we stood up and changed that conversation. Yeah. When the Tea Party goes after the powerless, I will be their power. When Congress forgets the words of the middle class, I will be their voice. When Republicans target the downtrodden, I will be their shield. And when they try to pull the ladder of success up behind them, I will grab it and hold on to it, because that ladder is ours. We built it, and damn it, it's ours. And in my world, I believe that we all matter and no one gets left behind. That is what I believe being a Democrat is about. And that's what you'll get from me if you elect me. Brothers and sisters, I ask you to rise up. Don't stand behind me. Stand shoulder to shoulder with me, because we all matter. And I want your support June 10th. I promise you I won't let you down if you support me. Thank you, Democrats. God bless Maine. God bless